Today's Patreon shoutout is for Ye Old Knight. Nymris versus a Seeker, Hans Eriksson and Tasigur. A one-lander with an opt could be alright, but I think in Dimir we're best just having multiple lands in our opening hand, so take the mulligan on that. And of course takes us into another one-lander, so we're going to have to go down a card. Alright, and then just get into a hell of a lot of lands here, so probably best to hold on to Bojuka Bog for later in the game, especially against Tasigur. So we can keep that and get rid of the Bojuka Bog. Draw into another land in Reliquary Tower, so we'll just get down the tap land here and pass. Gonna hold on to Fact or Fiction until after we've got our commander down, I think, because we'll get even more card advantage that way. Seeing a turn 1 mana crypt from Tasigur as well. And that takes them into Treasure Cruise, or Treasure Map, and scrying one with that. Wayfarer's Bauble from a Seeker. Okay, a Quickling for us, which is useful with some of our other flash creatures. We can bounce them and then reuse the ETB there. Obviously protect our commander from spot removal with it as well if we want to. Yeah, I mean we'll hold on to the Snap, but I don't think we're going to be doing much of anything this turn cycle either. Tasigur activating the treasure map again, and then it is a Temple of Mystery. Sylvan Library from Hans, and then instead of cracking the Wayfarer's Bauble, our 5-colour opponent decides to go for the Farseek instead. And we draw into Teferi, Mage of Zalfir, so best to get down our third piece of blue mana, and we can just hold up the mana crypt and go for our commander, I think, set that up and start getting card advantage as soon as we can. If we're worried about Tasigur holding up mana against us or anything, maybe we can play the Teferi instead, so that no one can counter our stuff. Treasure Map being activated once again, so being transformed into Treasure Cove, and 3 treasures coming along with it. They do fix their colours with a Watery Grave, 5 cards left in hand. And seeing the Scarab God with 2 treasures being held up, Hans goes down to 36 to the Sylvan Library and does manage to fix his colours as well. So now seeing a key to the city. Then going for more ramp and fixing the colours, 3 visits for a Seeker. I dare say that they crack the bauble here as well. Alright, so I'd rather my opponent counters the commander than the Teferi, so we'll go for our commander here now that most players are tapped out, and we do manage to land that thankfully, and manage to untap with our commander in play. So winning the flip on the mana crypt, and we draw into a Cabal Coffers with very few, in fact no swamps in play whatsoever, so it's definitely the Reliquary Tower we get down here, and I think we're aiming for a Fact or Fiction. Maybe go for a Snap to bounce the Tasigur, or maybe the Scarab God. Yeah, we'll see. Nymris is quite a good blocker for the Scarab God as it happens, with its 6 toughness. Treasure Cove sacrificing a treasure to draw a card, so Tasigur up to 6 in hand, and then casting a 3 visits to ramp out with a forest. Okay, and surprisingly the Scarab God holding back, so 4 cards in hand and 5 mana available over there. So why don't we at the end of the turn go for bouncing the Scarab God, because Snap is effectively free, and we'll get some card advantage from the Nymris. Alright, and it's between a Sol Ring and a Slither Wisp. I think we go for the Slither Wisp into hand, because that's going to be decent card advantage for us. Hans Eriksson being cast, I'm not going to do anything about that. So I'm not going to do anything here, because I think I want to go for Fact or Fiction and try and get some better lands off the top, so this will also enable us to hold up the Quickling as well, so missing out on a little bit of card advantage there, but it's better this way I think. Enlightened Tutor, search for an artifact or enchantment, put it on top. That is during the upkeep, so a Seeker will draw into it, and they've still got their Wooburg up. They've searched up City of Solitude, which completely breaks our deck, so let's try a Fact or Fiction on that one, see if we can counter this thing. Alright, there is a Dictate of Erebos. I think we'll go after the Arcane Signet there, and we'll point that at the Hans Eriksson player. Alright, so we've got Silumgar available to us, but that can only counter a creature spell, so actually no means of countering the City of Solitude here, annoyingly. Alright, so it's between Omen of the Sea, Silumgar Sorcerer on one pile, and then it's Think Twice, which does have flashback, Merfolk Trickster, and the Snap Mage. so I think we have to go for the 3 cards here. Amazingly, didn't have any lands in all that. Suppose I could have gone for the Think Twice before City of Solitude landed there. Okay, now it's a Fervor from our opponent, so just setting up their enchantment, I think. Alright, do get into an island, so we can drop that this turn instead of the Cabal Coffers. And we'll get down the Arcane Signet as well, just throw out as much mana as we can. Not much point in playing Teferi while the green enchantment is in play, because it does pretty much the same things, so yeah, just get out the Slitherwisp, because that is a difficult thing to cast with its coloured pips, so we will get that into play here. And then probably best just casting the Think Twice now. Maybe should have done it last turn, but yeah, that gets us into a swamp, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Yeah, might as well just tap out and pass then. Treasure Cove, sacrificing the last treasure from the Simic, or the Sultai player here. And Scarab God back into play again. No worries of anything being countered, or any spot removal being countered. And then it is Shigeki, Jukai Visionary. Hands turning in sideways now, swinging in at the 5 colour player. Dropped a Meteor Golem. Alright, and that does go on to the City of Solitude straight away, so that's good to see. Must be eager to do things during opponents' turns as well. The Seeker's down to just 1 card in hand. Now seeing a Nature's Law from the Gruul player. Up to 2 cards in hand during his turn, but getting out the Prismatic Bridge there. Following that up with a Druid class. Now drawing into the swamps, that is a Verdant Catacombs. I will keep hold of that for if we need a shuffle effect, so I'll drop the swamp here. And we've got our flash switch back on now, so I think we can attack in with the Slitherwisp towards the 5 colour player here. Shigeki being activated there, revealing the top 4 cards of the library. A land goes onto the battlefield tapped, and that is a shock land. And we see in the bin here an E-Witness, Balagad Recovery, and Awaken the Woods. So the Scarab God being activated now onto the Eternal Witness. So we'll let them fish something out of the bin here. I don't think there's anything too dangerous in the graveyard at the moment, so not too worried about it. They point the Eternal Witness at the Awaken the Woods. And now seeing an Alchemist's Refuge from the 3 colour player as well. And following that up with a Sylvan Library. Then Shigeki back into play after that. The Scarab God continuing to hold back for some reason, so that's 10 damage that could have been dealt by this thing. Key to the City being activated now. So at the end of the turn, I'm going to... yeah, we'll go for the Teferi. It might be that Hans can get into some removal for it, but I think it's a decent use of our mana still. So Nymris and Slitherwisp on the stack. I don't think the order really matters. And we do have an unlimited hand size, so each opponent loses a life to the Slitherwisp. We now have a Snuff Out. And then with Nymris, it's between a Dress Down and a Polluted Delta. So I think taking the Dress Down is fine there. Key to the City, untapping. They can put 2 mana into that. Looks like they are doing. So up to 3 cards before the draw step. Hans and the Meteor Golem swinging in towards the 5 colour player again. And Hans reveals to us a Needletooth Raptor this time. So that means this thing is going to deal 5 damage to something, and it is at our Teferi Mage of Zhalfir, so I think we'll make use of the Quickling here. And that does trigger the Slitherwisp and the Nymris again, drawing into a command tower. And with Nymris, it's between a land and Wavebreaker. Pretty obvious pick there. Noteworthy that the Hippocamp does have flash while Teferi's in play, but we can't afford it now anyway, so let the Quickling come down. So we'll bounce the Teferi back to hand, and that is obviously going to be another flash creature that we can cast, even though it is 5 mana annoyingly. It's over to the Prismatic Bridge during the upkeep now, so that's going to trigger for the first time. And they managed to get themselves into Time Stream Navigator, so I'm wondering if this is some kind of combo. Taking an extra turn after this one straight away, not even bothering to see what card they draw into. Gruul's Signet before the extra turn. And then seeing the Time Stream Navigator, so yeah. So going for the extra turn again here. Snuff Out won't help us there, of course, because they can just activate in response. Nature's Law after that. Druid class being levelled up to level 2, so playing an additional land on each turn, 1 card in hand. So the Gruul player, seeing enough, goes for Chaos Warp onto the Prismatic Vista, or the Prismatic Bridge I should say, so not going to get into the extra turn creature. Slams into a plateau, which is always what you want from a Chaos Warp. And they scoop at that, so yeah, not being allowed to just play infinite extra turns. Yeah, I think they just hope that people are just going to scoop to that. But thankfully not. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to the Snuff Out. We could go for Dress Down just to get card advantage, but I think I'd rather hold on to that at this point. Key to the City is being tapped onto our Nymris. And now it's a Dragon Turtle from us, so that's good against the Hans Eriksson. Let's get down another Swamp here, just in case Cabal Coffers becomes relevant at any point. So let's just play the Wave Break Hippocamp, and then we're going to be drawing even more cards with our Commander and the Slitherwisp. And we'll go in for 2 damage at the Sultai player over here. Scarab God getting a scry here, thanks to having a Zombified Eternal Witness. Raminap Excavator, and don't know if we've seen a fetch yet. They do have Balagad Recovery, or Sanctuary, in the bin. Shigeki being activated once again. And now Scarab God being activated again. They've got Animate Dead, Search for Azcanta, and a Deathrite Shaman in the bin. Okay, they've had access to a Vizier of the Menagerie apparently, so yeah, I didn't see that over in the Gruul player's graveyard. Vizier of the Menagerie coming from the Gruul player, of course. Shigeki, Jukai Visionary being played again. And now seeing Tasigur, the Golden Fang from our opponent. Alright, the Snuff Out is on just black creatures or non-black creatures, so can't use that here unfortunately. Nymris can block 5 damage from the Scarab God. And do we just take 4 from the E-Witness? Yeah, I think that's fine. Not going to be able to block with Teferi. Not going to play out any of these creatures just for the sake of it, although we could go Dragon Turtle now onto the hands. Yeah, we could have done that. I'm in the blocking phase now, so we'll just have to take the 4. So I'll just go for the Dragon Turtle here at the end of my opponent's turn, and we'll draw a bunch of cards. Nymris, Wavebreaker, Hippocamp, and the Slitherwisp. Illusionary Ambusher, that would have been good for the previous attack. Could have drawn a bunch of cards with that. And it's a land or a Brine Cutthroat, so I think it's obvious that we go for the Cutthroat there. And we'll tap down the Hans Eriksson so that that can't get the triggers when it swings in. Key to the City again can have 2 mana put into it, and they are going to do that. Noteworthy that there is a Scavenger Grounds in play now, so have to be careful of that with the Snap Mage, seeing a Deep Forest Hermit from the Gruul player. Alright, so at the end of the turn I think I'll get down the Brineborn Cutthroat. That can be a good blocker for us. Was going to set up the Think Twice. We'll get down a tap land with the Catacombs. Get a bunch of triggers again. And we've got a Bojuka Bog available to us there, as well as an island, so have a look, yeah. Unfortunately I turned too late with the Tasigur emptying his own graveyard. No creatures available in the Gruul player's graveyard either. But best have Bojuka Bog over the basic. Drew into a Time Twister as well, by the way. I was worried about decking myself, but I think, judging by the way the deck is running, we should maybe have Thassa's Oracle and Lab Man effects and stuff like that, as opposed to shuffling everything back around. I just thought I'd put the Wheel effect in here because we do have Notion Thief in the deck. Alright, drawing into Urtai Resurrected, so we can destroy the Scarab God with that if we want to. So I'll get down the Underground Sea. That will put us on 3 swamps. Doesn't look like the Cabal Coffers is going to be of much use unless we see an Urborg from either of the black players. So I think doing this now to the Scarab God will keep them from activating that, and yeah, that's probably going to be a good thing for us, so we'll do that now. Still get 1 trigger from the Slitherwisp because it is a flash creature, so it gets us into another land. Reliquary Tower doing its job for us here. Destroying a creature will go after the Scarab God. So they can put that into the hand at the beginning of the next end step. Maybe should have done that. Yeah, I should have done that during my end step, I suppose, because this thing does have flash. Yeah, I think we just pass through at this point. We'll do some attacking here. So quickling onto the Sultai player again. So Scarab God triggering at the end step, unfortunately. Getting that in their hand during the next turn, but maybe we can encourage them to dump 5 mana into that. And now going for Alchemist's Refuge during the upkeep for whatever reason. Not sure why they'd do that on their own turn. Now it's an Underrealm Lich, that makes sense. Snuff Out not doing too much good for us here against the black player. So maybe go for the Merfolk Trickster and tap that thing down. They're obviously looking to do something with it this turn. So triggering all our stuff again. The Brineborn is going to get its first plus counter. Alright, a Mystical Tutor for us now, so we can set up a Cyclonic Rift or something equally obnoxious. And then we've got a Mana Drain available to us, or a Venser. Similar effects, but I think the Mana Drain is the better of the two here. So tapping down the Underrealm Lich, and that will remove its abilities this turn. So they've effectively tapped down 8 mana to do that. They can still afford the Scarab God though. Sylvan Library, hopefully they're going to take more life too, because they're down to 16. Shigeki being activated once again, followed by Growth Spiral. And a Mystic Sanctuary comes into play after that, so they point that at the Damnation, which we need to remember they can't afford it as of now. And Shigeki back into play again. And the 4/4 zombies coming in towards us, as well as the Tasigur. So maybe do a bit of chump blocking here. Would be good to get this thing into play, but I want to have Teferi in play by the end of the Gruul player's turn, I think, just in case we can set up a decent turn. We can't be interfered with that way. So taking some damage here is fine, I think. We'll go through to the blocking phase. Definitely block the commander damage with our commander. And then we'll throw away the Merfolk Trickster. And we'll just take 4 damage. First vanishing counter being removed from the Deep Forest Hermit. Might have to put a Snuff Out onto this if they're going to swing in at us with the squirrel tokens. Now Hans does get to untap here, so going to be able to swing in at us. They do know that we have the Teferi to block though, as well as our commander obviously. So maybe the Snuff Out onto the Hans would be better. 2 cards in the Gruul player's hand. They didn't pay mana into the Key to the City. Playing a Kodama's Reach is fine. Noteworthy that the Scavenger Grounds is still held up. They've got Rogue's Passage held up as well during the first main. Okay, it's Neath of the Dire Moon. The Rogue's Passage has been tapped down. Scavenger Grounds not available. Just thinking if we can go Snapcaster Mage and recast the Mana Drain, that would be good. So I think a Mana Drain onto the Nylith is okay here. That gets us 4 free mana next turn. And obviously draw some cards here. Okay, drawing a Vendilion Click, which we can play this turn. And then it is Malakir Rebirth, not seeing all that much spot removal, thankfully. So Stunt Double probably okay here. And then we'll go through to the beginning of combat. I imagine they're looking to swing in with the hands regardless here, so can't block all that well on the squirrel tokens. Turning them into 1/1s would be good. I imagine they swing in with this to deal 5 damage to something. So let's go Snuff Out onto... yeah, I think it just has to be the hands, unfortunately. Might take some damage to squirrels. And then swinging in with everything so we can get rid of the Deep Forest Hermit here, which is good. I'm going to cast the Vendilion Click, I think, because we don't have any counter magic held up anyway. So Slitherwisp triggers, dealing a damage to everyone. And we draw a card, another plus counter. This is up to a 6/5 now. Not bad for 2 mana with Flash. Drawing into a Void Mage Husher. 3/1 comes into play. We'll point the Vendilion Click at the player with 3 cards in hand. And seeing that there is an Exsanguinate, definitely want to see the back of Exsanguinate with that much mana available to them. So that can go on the bottom and they can replace that. And making it so that one of the squirrels can't be blocked this turn with their Key to the City. So we're taking at least 2. We'll have to take 2 to this thing as well. So through to the blocking step we'll go, 3 damage onto the Meteor Golem, and then the 6/5 on a squirrel. Urtai can block the 1/1, so that survives, and then we can block another squirrel, so we take 6 damage here, a couple of squirrels, and the red enraged creature. Yeah, we'll just have to do it and go down to 11. And now's where the Mana Crypt starts to become relevant. Losing the flip to the Mana Crypt. Let's go for the Mystical Tutor for the Cyclonic Rift. And our opponents do know that we have that because we have to reveal it. We'll obviously drop a land this turn. We get 4 mana from the Mana Drain here. And we've got a Mana Drain free from the Snapcaster Mage as well, just in case this player can do anything against us. So just drop the Command Tower. I think playing out Stunt Double is fine here. We can put that on the Slitherwisp and start draining our opponents a bit more. That has flash, so it does trigger the Dimir creature. Okay, into a Mystic Remora. So if we leave this mana to disappear, we'll have 2, 4, 6, 7 mana, and then only 2 held up for, or only 3 left, so that we can't go for Snap Mage into the mana drain, so probably best going for Cyclonic Rift now, much as I don't like doing it during my main phase. It is the best use of our mana here. Yeah, and then we can hold up Snap Mage and mana drain, and then we'll be able to knock out a player here. So that's 14 exactly. Hopefully no one will interfere with those attacks. And then the rest can go in, or it will be 5 damage over at the Gruul player. I'll hold back my Nymris as a blocker, because it is a really good blocker. So managing to knock that player down to 0, our other opponent down to 18. And like I said, we can counter anything scary that they do here, assuming that they don't go for the Scavenger Grounds in response, which, yeah, there's always a possibility. Alright, our opponent decided to go through the draw phase, but didn't get into anything. 3 cards in hand, had a Cur Keep. Obviously their hands would have had Summoning Sickness there. Yeah, they had an Anger available to them, but no means of discarding it, unfortunately. Foundation Breaker wasn't really going to do much of anything to us. And then we know about the other 3 cards because we just bounced them. So yeah, first showing with Nymris looking pretty good. Jury's still out on whether or not I should have the one-sided Time Twister thing in here with the Notion Thief. If we cast this with Notion Thief, then we draw all of our opponent's cards and they draw none. So yeah, we empty our opponent's hands and fill ours. Maybe could have both, so the Lab Man effects and Time Twister combo. But yeah, you can have a look over at the deck list and see what you think. But wanted to play with Nymris for a very long time, ever since it was released, but never had chance to build it, so during this quiet period, thought I would throw it onto the channel. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. Massive thank you to the patrons for so consistently supporting the channel. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.